Velith had never seen anything like it. She floated slightly above the metallic floor of the human outpost. Her 3 slender arms folded tightly against her chest, and her glowing amber eyes darting around the small workshop. The humans called this place a repair bay, but to Velith, it looked more like a chaotic playground of strange devices, bright-colored wires, and small boxes with blinking lights. She approached a cube-shaped machine that sat on a central workbench. It was about the size of a human child, and had round edges painted in red and yellow. The surface was dotted with buttons and a glowing panel that pulsed softly. Velith's mandibles twitched nervously. She reached out a delicate finger and tapped one of the buttons. Nothing happened. Her head tilted, and she tapped it again, harder this time. Still nothing. Velith's mind raced. In her species, devices of this kind, devices capable of creating matter from raw energy, were heavily secured, tightly guarded, and operated only by trained scientists in sealed laboratories. Yet here, this small, brightly colored box was just sitting. "This is insane," she whispered to herself. "How can they let anyone touch this?" Her curiosity overcame caution, and she pressed another button. This time, the panel lit up with a series of bright patterns. A soft humming sound filled the air. Velith's eyes widened in shock. Her species did not allow casual use of such technology. One wrong command could destroy a building, or worse, a planet. She jumped back when a human voice broke the silence. "Hey, don't press that!" Velith spun around to see a human man rushing toward her. He was tall, with messy brown hair and a black jumpsuit splattered with oil stains. In his hands, he held a small tool that looked like a cross between a wrench and a futuristic tablet. I thought it was a toy," Velith stammered. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, but she could not stop the words. The human froze for a second, then burst into laughter. "A toy? Oh no. Definitely not a toy. This is a replicator unit. It can reproduce tools and parts out of basic raw materials." Velith's 3 eyes blinked in confusion. "Reproduce? Parts? What do you mean?" The human, who introduced himself as Marcus Hale, crouched slightly to be at her eye level. "Here. I'll show you. Don't touch anything else while I explain, okay?" Velith nodded cautiously. She had been trained to observe humans, but she had never been allowed this close to their machinery. She watched as Marcus tapped a few buttons on the machine, inserted a small data chip, and then stepped back. The cube whirred and clicked. Within moments, a tiny metallic piece began forming on the workbench. Velith's jaw dropped. The piece was exactly like the schematic Marcus had loaded a replacement component for one of the outpost machines. "Impossible," Velith muttered. "Your species carries a device that can create matter from energy in this compact form?" Marcus shrugged. "We've been doing this for a while. Makes field repairs easier. You just put in a design, press a button, and you have what you need. Handy, right?" Velith's mind raced. Her species relied on enormous factories and teams of engineers to produce even simple tools. They would never allow such a dangerous device to be used casually. Yet these humans treated it like a simple toy. "And what if it malfunctions?" she asked. Marcus grinned. "Well, that's part of the fun." Velith's mandibles twitched nervously. "Fun? You risk annihilation for fun?" Marcus laughed again, shaking his head. "We've survived so far, haven't we? It's about learning, experimenting, and improvising. We like to see what works." Velith took a step back. Her species would call this behavior reckless, dangerous, foolish, but she could not deny the brilliance of it. Humans were capable of using limited resources to solve impossible problems, often in ways that defied logic. Her attention was drawn back to the cube. She reached out again, this time more cautiously. "May I observe closer?" Marcus nodded. "Sure. But let me run a small demo first. Don't touch anything until I say." Velith floated beside the workbench, her glowing eyes fixed on the machine. Marcus tapped a sequence of buttons, and the cube began to hum louder. Lights danced across the panel in a mesmerizing rhythm. A small assembly arm extended, picked up raw metal pellets, and began shaping them into another replacement part. Veleth's 3 hearts skipped a beat. She had never seen such speed, such precision, and such self-contained functionality in a single device. In her civilization, creating even a single replacement part could take days, sometimes weeks, and required the supervision of at least 6 engineers. "You see," Marcus said proudly, "it just makes what we need when we need it. And it's small enough to carry around." "Pretty neat, huh?" Veleth could only nod. "Neat, but reckless." Marcus shrugged again. "Maybe. But it works. That's what matters." Suddenly, the cube gave a loud beep and stopped moving. Marcus frowned. "Huh. That's weird. It should keep going." Veleth's mandibles twitched in alarm. Did it just fail?" Marcus walked over and pressed a few buttons. "Not exactly. Looks like it got a little overloaded. Happens sometimes if I push it too hard." Veleth's eyes widened. "You push it too hard? Intentionally?" "Yep," Marcus said with a casual shrug. "Part of testing. Gotta know the limits of your toys. Right?" Veleth floated back several steps. Her species would have called this suicidal. Yet, she could not look away. There was something magnetic about the way humans approached technology. They treated it not as a sacred artifact, but as a tool to learn, to explore, and to challenge themselves. "Your species is unlike anything I have studied," Veleth admitted softly. Marcus smiled. "We get that a lot." The hum of the cube filled the workshop again as Marcus restarted it. Veleth watched the tiny assembly arm move with incredible speed, shaping another replacement part. She could feel a strange excitement growing in her chest. This was more than observation. This was learning. This was inspiration. For the first time, Veleth realized something profound. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy, nor the fastest or the most disciplined, but they had a spark, an uncontainable, unpredictable brilliance that allowed them to survive, adapt, and create. And it all started with a toy that she had almost ruined. As the part finished and clattered onto the workbench, Veleth let out a quiet laugh, a sound that surprised even her. Humans were reckless, chaotic, and sometimes foolish. But they were also extraordinary. Her report would have to reflect this. She would have to warn her superiors. Humanity was dangerous, unpredictable, and brilliant. Marcus leaned back, stretching. "All right, now you can touch it." Carefully, Veleth hesitated, then extended a trembling finger. She pressed a button lightly, and the cube whirred to life again. For a moment, the workshop was filled with the soft, steady rhythm of creation, a small miracle of human ingenuity, and Veleth realized, with a mixture of fear and admiration, that this was only the beginning. Humanity had created a universe full of surprises, and she was standing right in the middle of it. The next day, Veleth returned to the Human Outpost workshop, her curiosity stronger than caution. She hovered slightly above the floor, her 3 arms crossed, and her glowing amber eyes following every movement of Marcus as he organized tools on the workbench. "You're back," Marcus said, smiling. "Ready for the real demonstration?" Veleth's mandibles clicked nervously. I hope this will be safe," Marcus laughed. "Safe? That depends on your definition. But exciting? Definitely." He gestured to the cube-shaped replicator unit sitting on the bench. It looked innocent enough, with its smooth edges and cheerful colors. But Veleth remembered the small machine's power. It had created complex replacement parts from raw energy yesterday, and it had done so effortlessly. She had seen its speed, precision, and unpredictability. Veleth floated closer. "You call this a demonstration? This device is too powerful," Marcus shrugged. "You'll see. Sometimes you have to push things a little to understand them." Before she could protest, Marcus tapped several buttons, inserted a data chip, and gave the machine a gentle kick, almost playfully. The cube whirred, lights blinking rapidly, and an assembly arm extended. Within seconds, it began constructing a small mechanical arm, a replacement part for one of the station's repair robots. Veleth's eyes widened in disbelief. It is reproducing the part again. So quickly, Marcus nodded. Yep, it can make almost anything we can design, faster than we can think. Veleth watched the process closely, noticing how the tiny assembly arm moved with mechanical grace. The cube picked up raw metal pellets, melted them, shaped them, and combined them with other materials. Each movement was precise, and the finished part slid neatly onto the workbench. It's amazing, Veleth admitted, her voice soft. But what if something goes wrong? Marcus grinned. That's the fun part. Before Veleth could react, Marcus tapped another sequence of buttons. The cube hesitated for a moment, then suddenly accelerated. Its lights flashed faster, and more arms emerged from hidden compartments. It began producing multiple copies of the mechanical arm at once. Parts stacked and clattered onto the workbench, spilling onto the floor. Veleth's 3 hearts skipped a beat. You did not expect this? Marcus laughed nervously. Well, I hoped it would handle it. Sometimes these machines get a little excited. Veleth's mandibles clicked rapidly in alarm. Excited? Humans. Are you telling me that your species allows machines of this power to get excited? Marcus shrugged sheepishly. We like to test their limits. That's how we learn. The replicator continued working at an impossible speed. Parts flew in all directions. The workshop quickly became cluttered, and Veleth had to dodge a small robotic arm that skidded across the floor. Her species would have sealed the machine immediately, shut down the workshop, and quarantined the area. But Marcus seemed calm, even amused. Don't worry, he said. It won't break anything we care about. Mostly. Veleth hovered closer, trying to understand how the humans could treat such a potentially dangerous machine with such casualness. Your recklessness is astonishing, she said. I have never seen anything like this. In my civilization, any device with even a fraction of this power is strictly monitored and only operated by dozens of trained engineers. You allow anyone to use it? Marcus shrugged again. Well, we trust each other. Mostly. And we learn by doing, not just observing. Veleth's eyes narrowed. Trust? Doing? You risk everything. For trust and learning? Marcus nodded. Yep. That's humans for you. Suddenly, the cube let out a high-pitched beep and froze. The lights dimmed, and the assembly arms retracted. Marcus frowned. Looks like it hit an overload limit. That happens sometimes. Veleth's mandibles clicked together. Overload limit? You mean the machine could have destroyed itself? Or worse? Marcus waved a hand. It's fine. Happens all the time. Just part of testing. Veleth floated back several steps, her mind racing. Her species would have called this behavior suicidal, dangerous, foolish. But she could not deny the brilliance of it. Humans had a way of using limited resources to solve impossible problems, often in ways that defied logic. I do not understand, she whispered. You risk annihilation, and yet you survive. Marcus laughed. We're stubborn, I guess. And adaptable. You'll see. Veleth watched as Marcus tapped a few more buttons, and the cube slowly resumed its work, carefully reproducing another replacement part. She could feel a strange excitement building in her chest. This was more than observation. This was discovery. For hours, she watched Marcus test the cube. Each time, he pushed it beyond its limits, and each time, it adapted. Sometimes it failed in spectacular ways, parts scattered across the floor, lights flashing erratically, alarms beeping, but Marcus always found a way to fix it, adjust it, or use the failure as a learning opportunity. Veleth's admiration grew with every passing moment. Humans were not the strongest species, nor the fastest, nor the most disciplined, but they had a spark, an uncontainable, unpredictable brilliance that allowed them to survive, adapt, and create. At one point, a small mechanical arm skidded across the floor and almost hit Veleth's floating sensors. She caught it just in time. "Your tolerance for danger is extraordinary," she said. Marcus shrugged. "We call it problem-solving. You get used to it." Veleth's mind replayed everything she had seen so far. The casual handling of powerful machines, the constant testing and pushing of limits, the improvisation when things went wrong. She realized that this was not recklessness. It was ingenuity, creativity, resilience. You are nothing like any species I have studied," she said quietly. Marcus grinned. "Yeah, we get that a lot. But now you see the fun side too." As the day wore on, Veleth began asking questions: how humans learned from failures, how they developed new tools, how they worked together to solve impossible problems. Marcus answered with patience and humor, showing her that humans thrived on curiosity, experimentation, and improvisation. Veleth's mandibles twitched with fascination. She had expected to find humans primitive in comparison to her species, but what she saw was the opposite. They were chaotic, unpredictable, and sometimes foolish, but their ability to adapt and innovate made them extraordinary. By the end of the demonstration, the workshop was cluttered with dozens of small mechanical arms, half-finished parts, and glowing tools. Marcus leaned back, wiping sweat from his brow. "All right. That's enough excitement for one day. You've seen the cube in action, including its quirks." Veleth hovered quietly, taking it all in. She could feel a mixture of awe and fear, admiration and disbelief. This machine, it is more than a tool. It is a symbol of your species' ingenuity. Marcus laughed. "Guess you could say that. But remember, it's just a machine. The real magic is humans. How we think, how we solve problems, how we survive. Machines help, but people make it happen." Veleth's glowing eyes softened. She realized that yesterday's toy was just the beginning. It was a small example of something much greater. Humanity itself. They were not perfect. They were chaotic, impulsive, and sometimes reckless. But their creativity, adaptability, and courage made them exceptional. As the cube powered down and the workshop quieted, Veleth made a decision. She would report her findings accurately, without exaggeration or fear. Humans were unlike any species she had ever encountered, and their brilliance could not be ignored. For the first time, she felt a sense of hope and perhaps a little excitement for the future of human-alien cooperation. Humanity had shown her that intelligence, curiosity, and creativity could overcome almost any obstacle, and she could not wait to see what came next. The day after the demonstration that should not have happened, Veleth found herself wandering the human outpost again. Though this time, she had a clearer goal. She wanted to see more, not just the machines, but the humans themselves. Marcus was already in the central workshop, tinkering with another replicator unit. The device was smaller, sleeker, and packed with features. He waved at Veleth. "Morning. Ready for round 2? Veleth hovered closer, her 3 arms folded tightly. I want to understand how humans manage to survive with such recklessness." Marcus grinned. "Ah, that's easy. We don't just survive. We adapt. And sometimes we improvise in ways that would make your species' heads spin." Veleth's amber eyes narrowed. "Improvise?" Marcus nodded. "Yep, you'll see soon enough." The humans of the outpost were busy with repairs and experiments. Some worked on engines, others on communication devices, while a few tested small drones. Veleth observed quietly, her glowing eyes following every movement. The humans worked quickly, almost chaotically, but nothing ever truly broke. How do you do it? Velith asked. I have observed other species. They are careful, deliberate. You seem unstructured. Marcus chuckled. We are unstructured, but we're creative. We adapt fast. Rules are guidelines, not limits. That's why we survive. Veleth's mind whirred. She had seen humans fix broken machines in seconds, repair systems without manuals, and even invent new tools on the spot. Her species relied on careful planning, strict procedures, and layers of approval. Humans, they thrived in chaos. Her attention was drawn to a small explosion in the corner of the workshop. A human engineer had accidentally fused two incompatible energy cells. Sparks flew, smoke filled the air, and alarms blared. Yet within moments, the engineer ducked behind a control panel, pulled out a handheld device, and rerouted the energy flow. The sparks vanished, and the smoke cleared. The engineer stood, unharmed, and smiled sheepishly at Velith. You are lucky, Velith whispered. In her species, that mistake would have caused a catastrophic meltdown. Marcus shook his head. No luck. Training helps. But mostly, we improvise. We think fast and act faster. Velith floated closer to the engineer. Show me. More. Marcus led her to the central assembly area, where a group of humans was building a small rover. The rover was intended to explore a nearby asteroid. Velith noticed that the humans didn't follow a strict blueprint. Each engineer modified the design on the fly, testing parts as they were assembled. Do you plan before you work? Velith asked, confused. Marcus smiled. Sometimes. But mostly, we start, see what works, and change things as needed. Flexibility is our strength. Velith watched in amazement as the rover took shape. A wheel snapped into place incorrectly, so one engineer quickly fabricated a replacement, using a small portable 3D printer. Another arm misaligned, and a third human adjusted it by hand, welding it in seconds. You are insane, Velith muttered. This would take my species weeks. And you do it in hours, Marcus shrugged. We like challenges. As the day progressed, Velith was introduced to more examples of human ingenuity. In one corner, a group of engineers repaired a broken communication array by combining old parts with scavenged materials. The device was patched together in a way that no standard manual could explain, yet it worked perfectly. In another area, a human scientist designed a small drone to carry supplies across the station. When it failed mid-flight, she quickly modified the drone's propulsion system, using parts from a completely different machine. Velith watched, astonished, as the drone lifted off again, performing better than before. How do you think of these things? Velith asked, struggling to comprehend. Marcus smiled. We don't overthink it. We try, fail, adjust, and try again. Sometimes, the solution is obvious once you see it. Sometimes, you have to invent something entirely new. Velith's mandibles clicked repeatedly. She had expected humans to be primitive, chaotic, and reckless. But what she saw was a pattern, a brilliance, hidden within apparent disorder. Humans were not reckless. They were creative, adaptable, and incredibly resilient. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared. A hull breach had occurred in the lower maintenance bay. Marcus grabbed Velith's arm. Come on. This is your chance to see real human improvisation. Velith followed him as they raced down the corridors. The maintenance bay was filled with hissing air, flashing lights, and floating debris. Velith's 3 hearts raced. Her instincts screamed at her to stay back. Marcus ignored her. He pulled out the small replicator cube, the same device she had mistaken for a toy, and tapped a few buttons. The cube sprang to life, fabricating emergency hull patches and assembly tools at a speed that made Velith dizzy. Watch and learn, Marcus shouted over the noise. Velith observed in awe as Marcus and a group of engineers used the cube and scavenged materials to patch the hull. They welded, bolted, and reinforced the breach within minutes, a process that would have taken her species hours, if not days. You are incredible," Velith gasped. "No species could adapt so quickly." Marcus laughed, sweat on his brow. "We're used to it. Improvisation is what keeps us alive. Rules, procedures, they slow us down. Humans survive by thinking, acting, and adapting faster than the problem grows." Velith hovered, absorbing every detail. She realized something profound. Humans were not the strongest in terms of physical power. They were not the fastest or the most disciplined, but their ability to create, adapt, and improvise made them extraordinary. As the emergency ended, Veleth's amazement grew. She had seen humans repair machines, solve problems, and improvise under pressure. They were unpredictable, chaotic, and sometimes foolish, but they were also brilliant. Marcus noticed her expression. "You're impressed, huh?" Velith's mandibles clicked. "More than impressed. I understand now. Humans are unlike any species I have studied. You survive not because you are strong, but because you can think, adapt, and create. That is extraordinary." Marcus smiled. "Exactly. That's what we like about ourselves. And that's what makes us humans." Velith's mind whirred. She had expected to find a primitive, reckless species. Instead, she found resilience, creativity, and brilliance. Humans were not perfect. They were chaotic, impulsive, and sometimes dangerous, but their ingenuity allowed them to overcome obstacles that would defeat others. As the day ended, Velith took a step back and observed the humans returning to their work. She realized that the cube, the toy she had almost ruined, was a symbol of human adaptability. It was not the machine itself, but the people using it, who made the impossible possible. For the first time, Velith felt something she had never felt toward a species before. Respect. Humans were reckless, chaotic, and unpredictable. But they were brilliant, and she knew that her report would have to reflect the truth. Humanity was extraordinary. The alarm was still echoing in the corridors when Marcus grabbed the replicator cube and sprinted toward the maintenance bay. Velith hovered close behind, her amber eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. She had never witnessed anything like this. Humans moving fast, thinking faster, and solving problems on the fly. When they arrived, the scene was chaotic. The hull breach had expanded, and air was escaping in a powerful hiss. Floating tools and debris moved unpredictably, colliding with consoles and walls. A few humans were already working to stabilize the area, but Velith's 3 eyes took in the danger. It was far worse than she had imagined. Marcus tapped a sequence of buttons on the cube, and it hummed to life. Tiny assembly arms unfolded from hidden compartments, and the cube began fabricating emergency hull patches with incredible speed. Velith's mandibles twitched nervously. You can fix this?" she asked. Marcus grinned. "Not me. Us. Watch and learn." The humans split into teams. One team reinforced the edges of the breach, while another team carried the patches and tools. Marcus and a small group worked directly with the cube, feeding it data and guiding its assembly arms. Velith floated closer, trying to understand the process. Each patch the cube produced was perfect, precisely cut, exactly the right thickness, and ready for immediate installation. The human engineers moved with flawless coordination, almost as if they had rehearsed the sequence 1,000 times. But Velith knew better. They were improvising, reacting to unexpected changes, and thinking on their feet. A section of the hull suddenly buckled inward, threatening to undo the work they had just completed. One human engineer shouted, and another dove toward the panel, using a makeshift brace to hold it steady. Marcus tapped the cube, and it produced a brace of its own, perfectly sized and shaped to reinforce the weakened area. Within seconds, the section stabilized. Velith's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Incredible. Your species adapts faster than any machine. Faster than any plan." Marcus laughed. "That's humans for you." Machines are tools. People make them useful. You can design the best machine in the galaxy, but if the operator can't adapt, it's worthless. The repair continued at a furious pace. The cube produced patches, tools, and braces in rapid succession. Each one precisely what the humans needed. Some patches required welding, some bolting, and some needed to be adjusted manually. Each time something went wrong, a misaligned patch, a jammed assembly arm, the humans reacted instantly, improvising solutions that would have taken any other species hours or days to figure out. Velith floated in awe, her mind racing. She had studied countless species, but she had never seen anything like this. Humans were not just intelligent, they were adaptable, creative, and resilient beyond measure. "You are extraordinary," she whispered. Marcus glanced at her, sweat glistening on his brow. "It's not just me, it's all of us. We survive by thinking fast, working together, and never giving up. That's what makes humans, well, humans." A loud creak echoed through the maintenance bay. Another section of the hull was weakening. Without hesitation, Marcus grabbed a freshly produced patch and bolted it into place. A human engineer used a welding tool to reinforce the edges, while another adjusted the patch manually. Within moments, the section held firm. Veleth's 3 hearts raced. She had expected humans to be clever, but this level of ingenuity, coordination, and bravery was beyond anything she had imagined. They were turning a potentially catastrophic disaster into a controlled operation, improvising with speed and precision that defied logic. "You could have been destroyed," she said quietly. "And yet, you thrive in chaos. You thrive in chaos." Marcus smiled, wiping sweat from his forehead. "We thrive because we embrace it. Chaos isn't the enemy, it's the challenge. We adapt, we learn, and we survive. That's what makes humans strong in ways your species might not understand." The final section of the hull required a large patch, one that was too big for the cube to produce in a single piece. Marcus quickly designed a multi-part patch, feeding the cube the new schematics. As the cube produced several smaller components, the humans worked together to assemble them in place, creating a seamless repair. Veleth could hardly believe her eyes. The humans were combining improvisation, teamwork, and technology in a way that seemed almost magical. Each small action was deliberate, yet flexible. Precise, yet adaptable. When the last bolt was secured and the hull stabilized, the alarms finally stopped. The maintenance bay was quiet, except for the soft hum of the cube and the labored breathing of the human engineers. Marcus leaned back against a console, exhausted but smiling. All done. Crisis averted. Veleth floated in the center of the room, her mandibles clicking in amazement. I have never seen anything like this. Your species survives, thrives, and creates solutions faster than problems can destroy them." Marcus laughed softly. "That's us. Always improvising, always adapting, always surviving." For the first time, Veleth understood the essence of humanity. It wasn't just intelligence. It wasn't just technology. It was the ability to combine creativity, courage, and adaptability to overcome any obstacle. Humans were not perfect, but they were extraordinary. She floated closer to Marcus, her 3 eyes shining with admiration. "Your civilization, it is unlike any I have ever studied. You are reckless, chaotic, unpredictable, and brilliant." Marcus smiled. "Thanks. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me." Veleth paused, processing everything she had witnessed over the past few days. The toy she had almost ruined had been a symbol, a small example of human ingenuity, but the real brilliance lay not in the machines, but in the people who used them, who adapted, who improvised, and who never gave up. She realized that humanity's greatest strength was not its technology, its speed, or its strength. It was its spirit. The ability to face the impossible, to adapt, and to find solutions in the chaos of the universe that was what made humans extraordinary. Marcus noticed her thoughtful expression. "You're thinking about your report, aren't you?" Velith nodded. "I must record everything accurately. Humans are not as your species expects. They are remarkable." Marcus laughed. "Just make sure you don't scare your bosses. They might not appreciate how, well, creative we can be." Veleth's amber eyes gleamed. "They will have to understand. This is truth. Humanity thrives not because of rules or discipline alone, but because of ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. That is worth recording." For the rest of the day, Velith observed the humans finishing repairs, testing machines, and discussing new projects. Every movement, every decision, and every improvisation confirmed what she had already realized. Humans were extraordinary. As the sun set outside the space outpost, Velith floated quietly, watching the humans work. The cube sat idle on the workbench, its job complete for now. But it was only a tool. The real power, the real brilliance, lay in the humans who used it. She knew her report would change the way her species viewed humanity. They would have to acknowledge that humans were not just another species in the galaxy. They were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of overcoming any challenge. And Velith felt a sense of hope and excitement she had never felt before. Humans had taught her a lesson. Survival was not about being the strongest or the smartest. It was about adapting, creating, and never giving up. In that moment, she realized that the universe was full of surprises, and humanity was one of the greatest of them all. Marcus glanced at her, noticing the thoughtful expression on her face. "You ready to leave? Or do you want to see more chaos?" Velith's mandibles clicked in amusement. "I think I have seen enough. For now. But I will never forget this lesson." Marcus chuckled. "Good. Humans like to leave a little chaos behind. Keeps things interesting." As Velith prepared to return to her own ship, she looked back at the workshop, at the humans, at the machines, and at the controlled chaos that was their everyday life. She realized something profound. In the galaxy, survival was not just about power or technology. It was about spirit, creativity, and adaptability. Humanity had all of these in abundance, and Velith knew, without a doubt, that the humans she had observed were destined for greatness. As she floated toward the airlock, she whispered softly, "Humans, you are extraordinary." And with that, she left the outpost, carrying the story of human brilliance to the stars.